Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, really glad you're with us for the Friday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Jim Garrity is back, and we have good, bad, and crazy martinis for you today. And Jim, it's not even the official good martini. We'll get to that in just a second. Jim's biggest good martini today is that he had the wisdom to get out of the area on Thursday and come back home because of this huge IT mess that's disrupting all the flights. Jim gets to sit at home, and everybody else scrambling out of the convention is not the happiest today, I'm guessing.
I didn't check the schedule. I don't. Do the Brewers have a game tonight? Because the attendance might be a little higher. Everybody's stuck in town. Might as well go enjoy yourself. I had a very quick trip into Milwaukee, going in Monday, coming back yesterday. So I didn't get enough time to see nearly as much as the city as I would have liked to. But as far as my understanding of Milwaukee is that every corner is either a beer or a brewery, and there's a Catholic church in between. So you just, drink, get into trouble, go to church, go to confession, and then go next to church. It's very conveniently well laid out city. Great food, great place, wish I could spend more time. And I think it was, leading into our martini, I think this was one of the most unified, cheeriest, most optimistic, and energetic Republican conventions probably in about 20 years.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Milwaukee was founded by Germans. So yes, Catholic churches and beer and sausage. Mm-hmm. The heritage is still there. So anyway, by the way, this makes you even now, maybe, with Des Moines, because you couldn't get out of Des Moines, but now everybody else can't get out of Milwaukee. So I guess that evens the score.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. Yes, my time, It's been an intense year for me in the Midwest. So.
It has. And you're not done yet. You're going to have some real fun potentially next month. We'll see how that all unfolds, and we'll get into some of that in the second martini. But if things are going to go in Chicago with the Democrats as it appears, that will not be dull. But let's get to our first martini, and that's the Trump speech. We're going to break this up into two different things. If you've read Jim's Morning Jolt today, you know that he thought that the beginning of the speech and Trump recounting what happened in Pennsylvania on Saturday and his reflections on it, very powerful. And then it kind of evolved into a rally format. So we'll talk about each of those individually. And so I think, Jim, this was perhaps, for me anyway, one of the most powerful moments of the speech, where Trump basically said, I shouldn't be here. And the crowd disagreed, and Trump disagreed with them right back.
I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here. Yeah. Thank you. But I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God.
He also honored Corey Comperatore, the firefighter who died shielding his wife and daughter. And after going over to the firefighting outfit that was brought on stage in honor of him, Trump said this.
There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for others. This is the spirit that forged America in her darkest hours. And this is the love that will lead America back to the summit of human achievement and greatness. This is what we need.
And he also called for unity and not letting political division get in the way of our shared future as a country. We'll get into some of the good policy statements in just a moment here, Jim. But what struck you most about that very personal way of opening the speech?
Extraordinary, riveting, maybe the best start to a speech that any presidential candidate has ever given at a convention. And I think because what we saw for the latter half, which we'll talk about more than half really, the Trump we got for the longer, later portion of the speech is the Trump we all know. We've seen this at rallies, the bombast and all that kind of stuff. This was the first time Trump had, as far as I can remember, really, other than maybe a little bit after COVID or something, that Trump ever showed any vulnerability. And I'm going to cite what I figure everyone expected to be the common source that we talk about on this program when it comes to great leadership. And that is Optimus Prime, leader of the Transformers, or the Autobots. Peter Cullen, who's the voice of it, was getting ready for the audition. And apparently Peter Cullen's brother had served in Vietnam and was quite decorated for that. And he says, yeah, I'm supposed to play this, heroic robot. his brother said to him, well, if your character is supposed to be strong enough to be gentle. And if you think about for all the Generation X people out there who are remembering the Transformers cartoons, Optimus Prime, he wasn't a loud shouter and bomb. There was kind of this, Bumblebee, go over there. There was kind of this like calming nature to him. He was not some, full of bombast. And we all know that Trump. And I think hearing Trump talk about it, and we all kind of were on the edge of our seats. What's Trump going to say about this? What was going through his mind at that time? How did he feel? And all of that was just spectacular. And I think it's just kind of a nice, gentle reminder that Donald Trump, as much as there's the chest pounding and larger than life, that in the end he's a man, he's a husband, he's a dad, he's a grandfather, and I think the seriousness of the office he's pursuing and the very real risk that he is accepting by pursuing that office, I think it weighs heavily on him. Some people said it was softer or it was not the usual Trump we're used to. And I thought it was great. And I thought it was the sort of, if he had stayed on that, I think the Democrats would be even more panicking than they are right now. When he went over and kissed the fire helmet, I think you could just kind of say it was close. That was the image of the convention. And for, what I'm about to just lament the length of it. The good news for Trump is that the very best part was at the front. And a decent number of Americans probably watched that and went to bed, at least on the East Coast. That this was if you're going to have a good part, have it there. Started really late, usually on the fourth night of the convention. It used to be they wanted to have it done by the 11 o'clock news. I think it was very clear. I think Trump didn't start till like 10 something, and it was kind of clear he definitely wasn't going to make that. So the long rambling parts, probably most Americans had changed channel or gone to bed by that point. So, and also the coverage of it is probably going to emphasize all this. So the damage was minimal. But I do think there's a kind of a missed opportunity there, which I'll elaborate more in our next martini.
Most upset local news anchors changing their copy as they came on the air an hour and a half after the fact. But yeah, it was after 10:30, nearly maybe 10:45, even close to that by the time he started speaking. Before we get to some of the riffing that happened, kind of rally style, I think he did make some salient points on policy. This is the one that really stood out to me about how Iran was really contained, especially financially, back during the Trump years.
And the war caused by the attack on Israel, which would have never happened if I was president. Iran was broke. Iran had no money. Now Iran has $250 billion. They made it all over the last 2.5 years. They were broke.
That was also not in the script. That was his riffing as well. In terms of inflation, here's his plan to do that.
Republicans have a plan to bring down prices and bring them down very, very rapidly. By slashing energy costs, we will in turn reduce the cost of transportation, manufacturing, and all household goods. So much starts with energy. And remember, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country by far.
They're also going to need to trim spending, and then so far we haven't seen a whole lot of commitment to that. And then lastly, on the policy, talking about infrastructure over the green agenda.
And all of the trillions of dollars that are sitting there not yet spent, we will redirect that money for important projects like roads, bridges, dams, and we will not allow it to be spent on meaningless green new scam ideas. And I will end the electric vehicle mandate on day one.
Jim, if you looked at the transcript of this, and I'm sure you have, it's a pretty tight speech. So when you watch the transcript while watching the speech, it's in some ways fascinating, in some ways maddening when he wanted to get to the point on some things. But what'd you make of what he had to say substantively on policy?
I was going to say, so very often for these convention speeches, they will distribute the prepared text to the media so you can follow along and figure out what's been added and all that stuff. The prepared speech was terrific. And if he'd, delivered that, I think we'd all be talking about how, wow, blew the doors off the place. But by the way, it was still a very good convention for Republicans. Let's not lose sight of that because the speech ran really long. No, it was on substance, it was fine. He needed a 20-minute succinct case for here. He talks about the emotion stuff about being shot in the beginning. And then look, we know things are going wrong. Here's what we're going to do it right. And you could tell in the speech, whatever he remembered, oh yeah, I'm supposed to give it there's this stuff on the teleprompter I should get to. And it would be good. And then he'd start, it would spark some memory in his mind, or he'd want to tell a story or something, or he'd want to thank somebody who was there. And all the stuff we're used to seeing in a rally. And all that's fine. But the attention of a national television audience is a valuable thing. There are really two things that really grab people's attention during a presidential campaign. Debates, which I think we could say Trump won that one, very handily. And the second one is a convention address. And it just feels like a missed opportunity because there was good stuff in there. But the only people who were going to watch it were either diehard Trumpies who couldn't get enough of them, or people who are professionally obligated to, like me, and who are just like, this was the 30 years convention address. I did like the halftime show. That was pretty good, though.
Well, let's look at some of this. First of all, before we can get to Trump's reaction to Hulk Hogan, we've got to play Hulk Hogan, and you have to visualize him ripping the shirt. And Jim, I don't know about you, but the 14-year-old version of me thought this was awesome.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
One of the most fantastic entertainers of our era, man. That guy could own the mic, and it's why he was a global icon for so many years as a wrestler. And so then this was nowhere near the script of the convention speech. And here's how Trump just decided to go down the list of the night's speakers. Hey, Dana White was on vacation. And he goes, and how about the Hulkster?
And how about the Hulkster? How good was he? Is he they may call that entertainment. I know about entertainment, but when he used to lift a 350-pound man over his shoulders and then bench press him 2 rows into the audience, I say maybe entertainment, but he is one strong son of a gun. I will tell you, I watched it many times.
So Trump clearly loves Rocky III. And then, as you mentioned, I think that's the only time I've ever seen him throw anybody into the audience. But then here's the Packers riff that you mentioned.
And a very special thank you to the extraordinary people of Milwaukee and the great state of... Oh, there they are. There they are. You are so easy to spot. And Green Bay's going to have a good team this year, right? They're going to have a good team. They're going to have a good team. Most of the audience doesn't like it, but it's true. You're going to have a very good team this year.
And sadly, he's probably right about that, given their turnaround towards the second half of last year. But we're not going to go off on that tangent here. And then there was this one as well.
If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. Only going to use the term once. Biden. I'm not going to use the name anymore, just one time. The damage that he's done to this country is unthinkable.
Or 2 times. So, Jim, obviously it went long. It wasn't as tight in the delivery as it was scripted. I'm trying to figure out why he did it, because in previous convention speeches that didn't happen. Part of it, I think, is what happened on Saturday. And he kind of wanted to give the impression of what the rally is normally like for people who don't see it. I think he probably believes that those are generally such happy events that if he gives that kind of performance, then maybe people who don't normally see it will get the same impression of him. And maybe he just figures, who knows how many days I've got left. I'm just going to do what I want to do here. But so I don't know.
It also might be a contrast with a president who hasn't done any interviews since Tuesday and who, is fighting COVID. And, there was remarkable stamina in speaking for 92 straight minutes. And so I guess kudos to the president for that. First of all, I want to point out, right now there are listeners who are probably irked with us and saying, I can't believe Jim and Greg are giving Trump grief about digressing into football talk. Which is, what are you going to yell at him for making Die Hard references too?
That is a fair criticism right there.
Yeah. Just also on Hulkamania, you see Hulk Hogan on the speakers list, and you kind of roll your eyes and say, "Oh God, this is going to be such a joke. It's going to be a circus. It's going to be completely." And then he comes out, and first of all, kudos to Hulk Hogan for being in that amazing shape at age 70. Yeah, I looked it up, and the funny thing is that as it not only it appeals to your inner 12-year-old and all of us, like 80s nostalgia First of all, it's a very big. It's still coming back. It seems like every time I turn around, there's some documentary on the Brat Pack or the We Are the World video or Bon Jovi or something like that. Generation X is feeling nostalgic for their youth. And look, those were the Reagan years. These were for Republicans. That's your sweet spot. We love that stuff. So in a very strange way, anything that plays up 80s nostalgia. And in a world where it feels like everything has changed, watching Hulk Hogan go out there, still tear off the shirt and still look like he could, throw somebody out of the arena, that felt good. And the interesting thing was the Biden campaign Twitter account tweeted that out as if it was something bad. And I think that first of all, there are a lot of people who are going to see it, laugh, and say, "Oh my God, that's awesome." And two, look, if you want to get out and reach first of all, there's young males, and then with like Dana White from Ultimate UFC, that's reaching out to a demographic that usually doesn't pay a lot of attention to politics.
Yep.
And Hulk Hogan, any Generation X guy who's not that into politics, that showed up in their social media feed this morning. And the guy's talking about how we got to put Trump back in there. So there's method to the madness. This is not... I'll be honest, there are times it can get a little too sideshow circusy for my taste, but Hulk, that was awesome. In a world where everything's changing, isn't it nice to see Hulk Hogan is still exactly who he was back in the 1980s, it seems?
Exactly. And you're totally right. It's about making that video go viral for days on end. And, there was no shortage of testosterone on the stage last night between him and Dana White, and somehow Franklin Graham got sandwiched in between.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Frank Luntz dials he used to do on Fox News. And sometimes he would break it down by men and women, because I figure for men, it just went up to 10 and it stayed there. I don't know if it played as well with women. I don't know if Trump campaign, is as worried about that. But there also, there was... Look, everything that was up on stage was pretty deliberate, other than maybe the 20-minute delay leading up to where we got to hear the house band's greatest hits, and it was all like 70s and 80s stuff. So I give them credit for that. No, I just think that if you're like I said, like I said earlier, the audience's attention is a precious thing, and you want to make the most of the opportunity that you have. A convention that had been going very well. Democrats are in total disarray. We'll talk a bit more about that. That this was a chance for Trump to put it out there, get it done by 11, and you probably would see Van Jones. The tone of Van Jones. You kind of get to look at from his tone. It sounds like he thinks Biden's blowing it, and Trump's going to come back in it, and he can't believe it. Axelrod sounds like this sometimes too. I think the entire world would sound like every Democrat would be sounding like that if Trump had turned in a great one. A long, rambling one. It's not that it's going to hurt him. Not many people. If you didn't like it, you didn't sit there and watch through the whole thing. It just is a missed opportunity, or something that could have gone a little bit better on what had up until then been a really smooth, well-run, effective convention.
I'm just wondering if the DNC now is like, gosh, The Rock said he's not getting involved this year. Stone Cold Steve Austin, at least his persona certainly seems more MAGA than not. So,
are there any wrestlers who are Democrats? Who do we got?
That's exactly what they're doing right now. They're doing that. Oh man, we'll find out. But so ends our review of the long speech with our longest first martini ever. 3 martinis.
Oh, that was all we haven't got to the bad part.
We still haven't gotten to the bad martini. All right, well, Republicans were cheering the Hulkster and Trump and successful convention by and large. The Democrats are trying to figure out if the current president of the United States is even going to be their candidate this year. You couldn't really have a sharper contrast. Yesterday, Inez and I talked about Pelosi and Schumer basically letting it leak that they had gone to Biden and tried to get him to drop out because obviously the meetings themselves didn't go well. So now they're trying to make it go public and put some pressure on. That didn't work. And so yesterday they sent out Mark Halperin and fed him with this story. And who knows if it's true, but based on what we saw after this, it certainly doesn't seem like it. He says, breaking news, multiple sources outline the apparent state of play on Biden at this time. 1. Plans to announce withdrawal from nomination as early as this weekend, with Sunday most likely. John Meacham polishing up the remarks. Biden will not resign the presidency. Biden will not endorse Harris. Open convention with Harris and about 3 others. Superdelegates will not be allowed to vote on the first ballot. And so that just got everybody buzzing that, okay, the Biden campaign is clearly circling the drain here. And assuming he's recovered enough from COVID, we're going to have this all wrapped up in 48 to 72 hours. Then your former colleague, Robert Costa, now at the Washington Post, or actually it's with CBS now, says sources close to President Biden tell me tonight they're furious that while the president is trying to recover from COVID in Rehoboth, a pressure campaign keeps picking up speed. Lots of anger towards some donors for talking of money drying up if he doesn't quit, toward what they see as muted support from President Obama, and toward Democratic leaders who one source says are, quote, hiding behind statements. If they want him out, they'll have to push, source adds. Feels disrespected. Still a fluid moment, and no one has figured out an effective way to quiet this drift of nervous Democrats away from Biden. And no many Dems want Biden to just break at some point soon. And so, Jim, that certainly seems on brand for Biden to get angry as people keep pushing. I feel like this COVID could give him a break potentially from, more awkward and stumbly appearances and so forth. And we'll just see what the polls are maybe post-convention here to see where things stand. But it appears that this is wish casting. If by Sunday or Monday this is all done exactly as Halpern laid out, then we'll know that it was just typical political pushback of we're denying this until it's actually happening. But it appears that Pelosi, Schumer, maybe Obama behind the scenes are trying to manufacture something that's not actually happening yet.
Yeah, Meacham has already come out and said, I'm not preparing any speech for Biden along these lines. The part that, that my BS detector went off was that line that Biden would not endorse Kamala Harris. I almost couldn't imagine how, because he picked Harris, and the official view right now is that if, God forbid, something happened to Biden tomorrow, Harris is ready to take over as president today, and she would still be his choice. To basically say I'm not endorsing her would basically say I botched that call. I don't have faith in her anymore. And I don't like. Also notice we have not heard, not only officially has Harris indicated she has, no public statement saying, yeah, I'm ready to take over. How you feeling, boss? But I'm just going to point out the types of media voices who you would think would be big Kamala Harris fans aren't calling for Kamala Harris to be the nominee. So make of that what you will. I think, I theorize the idea that maybe Harris doesn't want to be the nominee. If Biden loses, that's on Biden. If he gets pushed out and she's the replacement, well, that's partially on her then, that she's the one who lost the election. So for her, being running mate to a sinking ship may actually be the better of the better option. It preserves her future viability as a presidential candidate. So there's that. I also would note that almost all of these reports we're hearing are based on conversations. And, of course, you're going to have anonymous sources for something like this. No White House staffer is going to say, well, I spoke to the president yesterday, and yeah, he's thinking of getting out. You're just not going to, see something like that. But it all sounds like all the leaks are coming from the Pelosi, Obama, Schumer side. No, nothing's coming from leaks from the Biden side. And everything we've heard from Biden himself, everything we've heard from Jill Biden, it's not like Hunter Biden does a lot of interviews, but everything we're hearing is that the family is adamantly that he should stay in and he's not going to quit. Now, I kind of put this to anybody. If your family says you got to stay in, how many men would say, no, I got to get out?
Right.
It's when those who are closest to you are saying, no, you got to keep fighting. Very tough for you to say, no, you're wrong. My political advisors. But Biden could always be talking to his professional political advisors who have been with him for decades and whose entire career value is based on their proximity to the president of the United States. There's always a chance that yeah, boss, yeah, I like, it's okay. I don't mind, going from being one of the most important people into Washington to just somebody else as, Kamala brings in her own people. Yeah, that's fine. No, that's, nobody around Biden is going to be who he really wants to listen to is going to tell him that. Now, there might be other folks who are telling him you got to hang it up. There are reports that Schumer and Pelosi were pretty direct to him and that he's going to tank the Democrats. There's a leak of internal polling data this should be one of our good martinis. Basically, every swing state, Biden loses, and he was only up about 3 in New Jersey. Now, look it up. He won by 16 points in 2020. So if you're looking at a 13 percentage point drop, even in blue states, Democrats are just going to get crushed. So, but I genuinely, in some ways, it would be perfectly fitting for Joe Biden, having enjoyed the adoration of Democrats for being the guy who saved them from Trump, to be the guy who lost to Trump and who along the way just ended the careers of so many congressional Democrats.
Yeah, 2 quick points on this. First of all, I love how you laid it out in the jolt that we're not hearing anything from direct sources. It's always someone who knows people who, cuts Joe Biden's
There's a
grass
vibe
and
shift going on, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's fun to watch the party that's allegedly defending democracy working so hard to defy the will of the Democratic primary voters that they set up to coronate Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that, like, first of all, I would adamantly say, if you believe that Joe Biden is too old, too weak, too frail, too easily confused to be president on January 20th of next year, 6 months from now, he shouldn't be president now. And we should be dealing with Kamala Harris taking the oath of office and running as an incumbent. I still think Trump's got great chances against that in that scenario. But this idea, like, it's almost unthinkable that you're going to end up with Gretchen Whitmer and Wes Moore or some other combination. It's wishcasting. There's a lot of wishcasting going on right now in a lot of mainstream media institutions.
Yeah, there's only a month before the convention now, so could be a lot of fun. All right. But if you think that part of the Democratic Party's crazy, just hang on a second. All right, Jim, while the official Democratic Party is in complete disarray right now, let's take a look at how a pretty good-sized chunk of the Democratic base is looking at the shooting of Donald Trump from last Saturday. Hats off to Free Beacon for flagging this poll from Morning Consult. A conspiracy theory has run unabated in Democratic circles following the assassination attempt against former President Trump on Saturday. It posits that Trump staged the shooting for the photo op and that the wound on his ear was caused by something other than an assassin's bullet and that he was never in mortal danger. It's a baseless conspiracy theory, disproven by reams of documentary evidence and eyewitness accounts, and it's a belief held by 1/3 of the Democratic electorate. 1 in 3 registered Democrats believe it is quote-unquote credible that the shooting Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania was staged and not intended to kill Trump, according to a Morning Consult poll released Monday. The poll showed that 34% of Democratic voters found it either definitely or probably credible that Trump staged Saturday's shooting, with less than half, 45%, saying the conspiracy theory is not credible. Jim, 34% say it's probably a fake, and they can't get even a majority of their electorate to say, no, this really happened.
So I saw that, Greg, and I had to look it up, and I did. So it was a 2006 poll by Scripps Howard, University of Ohio, who asked respondents, how likely is it that people in the federal government either assisted in the 9/11 attacks or took no action to stop the attacks because they wanted the United States to go to war in the Middle East? 22.6% of Democrats said it was very likely. Another 28.2% said it's somewhat likely. In other words, more than half of Democrats said they believed Bush was complicit in the 9/11 terror attacks. That was back in 2006. These sorts of passions fade. It was in the context of, can you believe how many Republicans think that Obama was born abroad? It's this very interesting phenomenon. We are constantly warned about the dangers of paranoia and the dangers of conspiracy theories and the dangers of these crazy ideas on the right side of the aisle. And yeah, they're bad. Generally, they're fringe, though. Generally, they're people who are not, who are sitting in their parents' basement, fingers orange from Cheetos, typing in their computers away, who are not in powerful positions. You can find exceptions here and there. But as we saw that comparison of this and the sheer number of Democrats in this one, chances are there's a good number of, university administrators, perhaps your company's HR department. If it's that many Democrats, then it probably means Democrats who you'd think of as being responsible, intelligent, well-educated, normal people. And I think we've all kind of, if you get around enough, you begin to realize, there are absolutely wonderful, bright people, and you're chatting with them, and they'll say, of course, the moon landing was faked. And she'll be like, what? And you're like, don't tell me you believe that Neil Armstrong it was all filmed in a studio. And I'm like, no, you're thinking of Capricorn 1, the movie where they fake a Mars landing. It starred O.J. Simpson, that guy who killed people. And then they say, O.J. Simpson never killed anyone. There are some people who have crazy ideas. But I think there has been so much knee-jerk, unthinking, full-spectrum opposition to Trump and to the loathing, contempt, utter, hating him, that even when something happens to him in a way that on a basic human level, you say, oh my God, thank God he wasn't killed. Oh God, it's terrible that poor man was killed. It's terrible those people were seriously injured. It is conceivable that Trump can be a victim of something bad that happened to him. I'm going to do an NBC The More You Know type, public service announcement. Hey kids, assassinating the president or presidential candidates is bad. The more you know. We shouldn't have to do that. That should be kind of self-evident. But apparently it isn't. And there are people who are so angry at Trump that they have to believe it couldn't have happened that way. It's got to be organized. It's got to be a hoax. It's got to be some play for, and even to this point, I think it's Joy Reid who's still saying, well, he was hurt by the teleprompter. Now, there are pictures of the teleprompters intact after the shooting. But you know what? Greg, I'll bet you they're faked. Just like the Zapruder film. Cheap fake. Just like all those videos showing Biden forgetting things and stumbling around.
What a week. Think about where we were last Friday. And all of this has happened in the past week.
Greg, this week has been a long decade.
It really, really has. Wow. Jim, have a good weekend. Get the rest. We all need it. And we'll reconvene on Monday. See you then.
See you Monday, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks so much for being with us today. Please tell your friends about us, and we'd love to have them listening as well. Thanks for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch Podcast. Follow us both on X. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a terrific weekend, and join us again on Monday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.